I'm Jace Lacob, and you're listening to Masterpiece Studio. For James Herriot, Season 4 has been one of change, transformation, and self-discovery. Whether through difficult interactions with Wesley Binks, teachable moments with Richard Carmody, or supportive reassurances from his found family at Scaledale House, James has had to navigate his share of hardships, uncertainties, and life lessons. But his efforts are hardly wasted as we see him emerge from these moments more certain of himself and his direction in life.
I've been thinking about what you said, and I'm starting to think that we should carpe some diem.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
If you want to start a family...
You know I do.
Me too.
Well then.
Shall we?
Get cracking.
Well, I was trying to think of something a bit more romantic.
But just as he's finally gaining some traction, life throws James another curveball, this time in the form of a call-up letter from the RAF.
You all packed and ready?
Packed, but not ready. Not remotely.
Sounds about right.
While James's future is uncertain, for now he's able to get a couple days of R&R at Scaledale House with his wife Helen and newborn baby James.
You all right?
I am now.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
This week, actor Nicholas Ralph joins the podcast to discuss James Herriot's transformative arc over the course of Season 4 and how his character learned to grow by embracing the ever-present uncertainty of life. This week, we are joined by All Creatures Great and Small star Nicholas Ralph. Welcome.
Hi, Jace. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, Series 4 marks a period of transformation for All Creatures. The war is on, Tristan is gone, James and Helen are married and contemplating starting a family. Behind the scenes, there's a new head writer. I mean, did Series 4 feel different in that respect? Was there a sense of transition that you were aware of as an actor?
Yeah, I suppose there definitely was a sense of transition in that we didn't have Callum. Our lead director, Brian Percival, had moved on, and our lead writer, as you say, yeah. So there was and then there wasn't, because then once we got all back up to the Dales and met up with Rach, Anna and Sam, and the rest of the main cast, and our wonderful executive producer, Melissa Gallant, who really just steadied the ship for everyone. And our lead writer as well, Jamie, had written before for the show, so wasn't brand new either. So once we got back up there and we kind of settled in and we bedded in, it did, yeah, everything felt all right again, even though we missed those guys and we missed Callum.
You've now played James Herriot for 4 seasons, and you said you instantly fell in love with the character from your first audition. All Creatures was your first on-screen credit, which is a staggering thing, given how deftly you seem to inhabit the character as a lead actor. Has playing James Herriot taught you anything about yourself?
First off, thanks very much. Very, very kind, we used to say. Yeah, I mean, I like the character. I'm just learning about myself all the time. I think where we have similarities is that James studied in Glasgow his craft, veterinary practice, and then got his first big job in the Yorkshire Dales under Siegfried. And likewise, I studied my craft acting in Glasgow at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland at Drama School. And then my first big job was in the Yorkshire Dales doing this wonderful show. So I feel, along with the character, I'm growing all the time personally and professionally. I mean, like you say, this is my first television job. So as far as even that goes and that kind of muscle, because it's very different to the theatre that I'd done before, I've now done 4 seasons of that. So I'm just all the time working on my craft like James was. This is what's wonderful about the show as well, and playing a character like James, so 3-dimensional, so deep, so much truth, that there's so much to get your teeth into every year. It's why after 4 seasons, or certainly in the lead up to the 4th season, once again, I was just beside myself with excitement. I couldn't wait to get started. I couldn't wait to get back up there with everyone and get stuck into season 4. There's always new challenges ahead for me as an actor as well, playing James. So yeah, it's all part of the joy of playing the character.
Speaking of getting back up there, has life in Grassington, which stands in for the fictional Derby, or Arncliffe, changed since you started filming there? Is the magic of television production just sort of old hat to the locals by now?
I mean, along with the show, it seems to be growing all the time. I mean, now, we're on these locations and we bumped into couples and families over from America that were over off the back of watching the show. We bumped into some families from Holland that were over. There's a lady from Ireland. There was people from Australia over. It's funny in Grassington as well. I mean, the crowds just get bigger every year, come down to watch filming, especially in Grassington. We do pull a big crowd, but there's one lady and her dog, and it doesn't matter what's going on, what filming's happening, if people are being asked to be quiet or would you mind holding there just for a moment while we film this? She just says, no, and walks straight through with her dog, and she will not wait for a second, 5 seconds, but she just goes straight across. No, I'm not waiting. So which is brilliant. I think fair play to her as well. Yeah.
Fair play.
There's a group of ladies as well so Arncliffe is where the back of Skeldale House is. It's a little village where time seems to have just stopped around about the 1930s. It needs so little to get dressed up. I love it up there. It's one of my favorite locations. And these ladies come out about 4 o'clock in the afternoon for a gin and tonic. They all sit outside and they always call over to me, Nick, come and join us for a gin and tonic. And I would in a bit. I've still got a bit of work to do first. We're still filming for a few more hours. So I haven't managed to get that gin and tonic yet, but soon I will, hopefully.
Looking back to the early episodes, James arriving in the Dales wet behind the ears, to the end of series 4, where James holds his son for the first time. What do you make of James's arc overall from those very early days to the present?
Yeah, I mean, what a journey. What a roller coaster. I think every year he's just growing personally and professionally, filling out his vet's coat a little more, to the point of, having his firstborn son, which was just absolutely incredible. And I even remember at the start somebody saying, it might have actually been Jim and Rosie, Alf White, obviously pen name for James Herriot's actual, his real children. They said, you've got the difficult job of playing our dad because he's the observer, he's the kind of neutral character, I think they said, in amongst these more eccentric characters, you could say, who perhaps wear their hearts on their sleeves a little more than James does. However, I think saying the neutral characters, it just isn't maybe not the right term, because it's been an absolute roller coaster for James. He's been pulled from pillar to post. It's been incredible. And as an actor, it's been so much to get my teeth stuck into, and such a three-dimensional character. So I get to play these scenes of high drama, and then I get to play scenes where it's maybe a bit more funny, and then these very emotional scenes, and these really poignant moments, and then working with the animals, and which brings about its own set of challenges. It's an absolute roller coaster.
I do want to rewind just a little bit to the beginning of series 4 and to those early conversations between James and Helen about parenting. While James gets the wrong end of the stick with Wesley Binks, he seems convinced he'd be a bad father. What makes him feel this way particularly? Why doesn't he think he would be a good father, James?
I think it's maybe a bit of a knee-jerk reaction from James. And also, as we've seen with James throughout the seasons, it's always been Helen kind of nudging him along when he's had these moments of doubt. And also maybe it's just lacking a bit of confidence in that area. And the way it panned out with Wesley at the start is kind of soured that as well. So he feels that he's not cut out for it, and he doesn't have the skills for it. But again, Helen's there to kind of nudge him back onto,
push him along.
Yeah, kind of
push him along.
Yeah, push him along, and then to also kind of crush some of these doubts that he might have, which sometimes I think are a little unfounded, or they don't hold as much weight perhaps as James thinks that they do, or feels that they do.
So Skeldale House sees the arrival of some new faces in this series, such as James Anthony Rose's Carmody and Neve McIntosh's Miss Harbottle, but I'm curious how the atmosphere on the set felt without Callum there. I imagine it was significantly quieter, for one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, Tristan is a massive character in the show. And Callum is a massive character in our lives, on set and offset when we're all up in Harrogate. So yeah, so there was a Tristan and Callum shaped hole in both those scenarios, but it did just it just lent us in more to what was happening in the world at the time, but also it shifted the dynamics in the house a little bit, which was quite interesting as well, because it meant the funny one, to use a kind of base term, was gone. So someone else had the opportunity to be the funny one, who'd say who'd have the funny thing to say. And everyone in the house had to, the roles kind of shifted a little bit. And then Jamie comes in, who did a wonderful job as Richard Carmody. I mean, coming in on the fourth season with a cast so tight as we were, after a couple of days, it felt like he'd been there the whole time, which was just incredible. I take my hat off to him. Incredible job. And then in one scene, James says, as Siegfried and Carmody blast off in the rover and leave James behind, how did I become Tristan? So it was a bit of a shift. There was shifting happening at Skeldale House, which was really good as well, which was like a positive thing to come off the back of it. We certainly missed Tristan and Callum.
And there is a beautiful sense of found family at Skeldale House, and this series reinforces that. Siegfried and Audrey function as surrogate parents for this very unruly brood, and James's departure for training in episode 5 really hits that home, with Siegfried telling James how proud he is of him.
You'll look after Helen?
Of course I will. Even when she don't let me. Won't be the same without you.
And just make sure it's the same when I come home.
Don't let it change you.
I won't.
Proud of you, James. We all are.
What sort of emotions did that bus stop scene kick up?
Yeah. I mean, a funny point is something that Sam said, that now for season 4 there was nobody in Skeldale House that was related anymore. It really was a surrogate family. Obviously, James and Helen are married, but I mean, the bus stop scene, and also the scene where we finish off the bottle of whiskey at kind of 2 or 3 in the morning. Both those scenes, I mean, I was just so happy that that made it in as well, because that's one of the scenes from the books that I had read, and it's about a page long in the books. And every time I read it, I could barely get through it by the end because you're always welling up, and it's so simple, a page long, and it's so powerful. It's just a lot is said, but a lot is left unsaid. There's a lot of subtext as well. There's a lot going on underneath, which so that was just wonderful to play. And then the bus stop scene, was really poignant. And we were at the place where I always pick up and drop off my parents, and this time around it was Siegfried and Mrs. Hall dropping me off to get the bus to go off and serve. So and especially under the circumstances as well of just going off to war, and you don't know if you're going to see those people again. So again, not a lot written, but a lot going on underneath for the characters, which I think our show does particularly well, and something I'm really take pride in our show about the subtext. And
it helps that the actors are strong as well to deliver that, I'll just say. And we get you reciting a little Robbie Burns here, A Red, Red Rose, as James says goodbye to the Dales, to his family, to his pregnant wife, not knowing, as you say, if he'll see any of them ever again.
Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. As fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I. And I will love thee still, my dear, till a' the seas gang dry. Till a' the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun. And I will love thee still, my dear, or the sands of life shall run. And fare thee weel, my only love, and fare thee weel a while, and I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 mile.
And I love how this scene folds in a way, bookending the very first episode of the show, with James seeing the Dales for the first time. What goes through James's head here?
Yeah, first off, I mean that poem's it's just incredible. I think there's a lot going through James's mind. One of which, at the forefront, is just remembering Helen and seeing Helen in that spot, because it's right where the first time he ever saw her. And for James, I do think it was love at first sight. So those kind of feelings and emotions and memories, and then I think that's what initially what he's thinking about, and then after that, just thinking, my God, I have to get back. I have to get back to them, and the real reality setting in of I'm leaving. This is where I've arrived, and as I sail past it, I'm actually leaving. So yeah, very complex emotions.
Before this next question, a brief word from our sponsors. Ocean voyages, expeditions, river journeys. Viking is dedicated to bringing travelers closer to the destination, offering a small ship experience and a shore excursion in every port. Learn more at Viking.com. The final scene between James and Helen is so touching and honest, and I love that James tells her that she'll be a fantastic mom. And there is just such genuine emotion here, such love and fear and sadness and heartbreak, all tied up in this one scene. How did you and Rachel walk that fine line between giving into your character's emotions and brushing it away?
Yeah, it was a bit of a dance. We always knew it was going to be a really tricky scene to get through. And I mean, Rachel's just absolutely incredible, first off, I should say, because that was one take for her.
Wow.
But in those scenes, you're kind of relying on the other, or you put it onto that, because you just have to feed off what the other in that. If you can't not, especially with the performance Rach was giving. And I think for James, or something that the realization I came to, because even when I read the script first time, when I read that scene, I was in floods of tears. I was really upset. However, upon doing a bit more work on it and things, I was like, James in that moment has to be strong. I feel has to be strong for them, has to be strong for himself, has to be strong for Helen, because he's leaving. Helen's pregnant. She's in Scaledale House, where she's moved to be with him. So I think in that moment, as much as his heart is breaking, he has to be strong, and to leave her feeling a sense of, it might just be all right. Yeah, I think he has to do that for her.
And then he leaves that model Spitfire that he carved for the baby. I mean, I can't. It's too emotional. Episode 7. So you're gone for episode 6. We have an episode of All Creatures without James Herriot. We definitely feel that sense of someone missing. There's a space where James should be, but he's not there. Episode 7 begins with James getting his wings and being tasked with repairing the broken wing of his bomber squad's mascot, a kestrel named Georgie. And James knew one of the men who died in the previous night's flight, and Georgie's injury is seen as a bad omen. The men are scared. How much of this weighs on James's thoughts? The death of a man he knew, this wounded mascot. What's weighing on him here?
James has been away probably about 3 months of basic training, 2 or 3 months at this point. So along with the training and just getting you ready for whatever role you're going to be given, the real realities of war and being around it and being around the men and seeing, hearing of planes going off to fight and then not returning and things, it's compounding all the time. You're learning more about the war, you're learning more about the casualties, and now in very real terms for James now, somebody that he knew who had a young family like him hasn't returned. So that's just like a sledgehammer, along with everything else. But that I think is a real punch in the gut. And then he gets his wings and he goes on to bombers. He knows he's going to be flying bombers. We know now the stats. 51% of bomber crews never returned, and I think another 25% were either injured. So the stats aren't great. The stakes are extremely high, and everything is becoming a lot more real.
So James asks Woodham for leave to see Helen as she can't drive to see him, and Woodham denies the request, and he's pretty cruel and dismissive.
Excuse me, sir. There was something I wanted to ask you. My wife, she's pregnant. I was due to meet her in the village for dinner this evening. She's in no fit state to travel. I wondered if I could go back.
Go back?
Just for an evening. I'm worried about her and...
Yeah, we all have people we're worried about, Herriot, but we have a job to do.
I appreciate that.
No, I don't think that you do. Otherwise you wouldn't be asking me. Or should I just let every man who gets a woman knocked up run gallivanting across the country?
Well, I didn't get anyone knocked up. Helen's my wife. She's having our baby. I want to be there for her.
He also sees being present for the birth of a child as somewhat sentimental and unnecessary.
Sir, I wouldn't ask unless I was genuinely concerned. I want to be there and I want to support her.
Where you need to be is in the air dropping bombs on your enemy. That is the support that your family needs. You need to be strong. That is how you protect them. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Is this the classic struggle of masculinity, to not give in to emotion?
Yeah, I guess, and certainly in his role anyway, looking over the new recruits and the people getting trained up, I suppose he has to harden himself, and he said himself as well that he has 2 children. So if he didn't harden himself, he wouldn't be able to probably carry out his duties. So it's a real tricky one. And James doesn't like when he says, well, I just let any girl knocked up leave. I think really takes umbrage to that, because that's just absolutely so not the case. But yeah, like you say, I also know why he's probably using that terminology as well, and think just to try and to squash any sentiment, any emotion, and get the recruits kind of focused on what they have to do. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
James gets Georgie flying again. The men cheer as she takes flight, and it's a small thing, but perhaps that's what's most needed in wartime, is small reminders or small miracles. And Woodham does drive him to Derby for 2 days leave, and James rushes through the streets of Derby, a Christmas miracle. Is this James's "It's a Wonderful Life" moment? Is he Jimmy Stewart here?
There's definitely similarities. Yeah, for sure. And look, I love James Stewart. I love Jimmy Stewart. I love his films. So for me if there's anything that's just got a little nod to James Stewart, I'm all for it. Yeah, he's just overjoyed. It's just everything's come together and it's come right. And then he takes his brief second pause just to have a look around Derby, around the square, very briefly. I'm actually here. And then the next thing is Helen. Just beeline for Helen. Just got to see Helen. And he's just beside himself with excitement, happiness.
And then he gets to hold his son in his arms, which is the moment, as we said, that Michael Collins says changes something, and you changes everything. And it truly does. And he openly cries when he sees Jim, proving that he's not Woodham or Michael Collins. How did you read this moment where James does choose not to harden his heart, but to follow Audrey's advice and to open it?
Yeah, I mean, even before when I met the little baby, it was just, I think she was 14 days old or something like that when she was first on set. And when I first held her, it's obviously not my child, but at the same time, just holding a little baby of that age, just days old, it does do something to you. And, I felt really, I felt quite emotional just when I held her. And that was offset. It was a few days before or something like that. I can't remember, but it is quite profound and quite emotional. So yeah, so when we then were filming that scene, it was I mean it was just very easy. I mean, you see James, he's just so excited and beside himself that he's back and he's seen Helen. He just doesn't even register that she's a good bit smaller in the stomach. She's still got a bump there, but she's still a good bit smaller. Doesn't even register right away. Just wants to see Helen, just wants to be attached to, embraced, just entwined with Helen. And then kind of takes it in and goes, "What? You're in bed? Well, what are you still doing in bed?" And then kind of recognizes that the belly is not, he's not having to reach as much as he should to get his arms around her. And then meets his son.
And then has to make a comment, of course, in true James fashion, that he's a funny looking thing, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because all the births he'd witnessed would have been those of animals and not humans. And is that how Alf White reacted to seeing Jim for the first time in reality? Is that sort of a true to life reaction?
That is true to life. That is what Alf White said. And he said it to Nurse Brown, I think she is in the book. So the midwife. In those days, you would go to the midwife's house. So this is in her house, in Nurse Brown's house. And men weren't supposed to be there either. So he kind of crashes in and meets his son. And he says, "A funny looking thing, isn't he?" And says to the nurse, to the point where he says to the nurse, "Do you mind if I see another one?" And she said, "What? Do you mind if I see another one just to make sure?" Because he's quite funny looking. So he goes into the next room and sees, and it's a lady from the town that he knows. And he looks at her baby and he says, "Oh, she was even worse than little Jimmy." So I felt at ease after that. But that was true to life.
True to life. I mean, the final shot of James and Helen with the baby on the steps of Scaledale House in the snow, pure Christmas romance at its finest, their own little nativity. Is this moment the epitome of an All Creatures Great and Small Christmas special at its very best?
I think so. I mean, you'd have to ask the fans, but yes, it just had it all. Just the filming of it as well. I mean, I was going to say it was warm and it was beautiful. It literally was warm as well. It was about 30 degrees when we filmed that. It's absolutely scorching.
Celsius.
30
degrees Celsius.
Yeah, Celsius. But it was no, it was. It just felt so special. And subsequently we've had a lot of lovely comments and letters as well from fans that have said as much, and people that I've bumped into in the street and things like that. It was a special episode and a real special way to finish it. So it definitely brought the special to the All Creatures Great and Small Christmas special for sure.
So I follow you on Instagram, and recent videos made me wonder if you were leaving behind the world of acting to make a go of pro skateboarding, which begs the question, is it difficult to ollie in wellies?
Do you know, maybe I'll take my skateboard up to Yorkshire and we'll find out. So I don't actually have wellies here. Don't need them so much in the middle of London, but... Yeah, although I don't know if production would like that if I took my skateboard up. Actually, they were probably, if any of them that follow me on Instagram, were probably shirking away from the screen at the thought of me on a skateboard, maybe injuring myself.
Insurance issues, they were saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I dusted off the skateboard after a long time, but it was good fun.
Nicholas Ralph, thank you so very much.
Thanks, Chase. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Next time, while the Dales have been spared the front lines of World War II, ripples of the war can still be felt in daily life and, of all places, in the kitchen.
Oh, what a treat. Thank you, Mrs. Hall.
Well, I've had to make some substitutions on account of the rationing.
Oh, lovely.
Well,
Those are interesting flavours. I've not had one like this before. Dear me. They taste like dog biscuits.
All Creatures Great and Small historical advisor Mark Roodhouse joins us to discuss food rations and black markets in Britain during the Second World War. Masterpiece Studio is hosted by me, Jay Slaycobb, produced by Jack Pombriant, and edited by Robin Bissett. Alicia Etup is our sound designer. The executive producer for Masterpiece is Suzanne Simpson.